Okay, so in this video I'm just going to follow on with the Muse tutorial and show you how I would prep these landers to actually be ready for usage online. The first thing I'm going to do is rename them. So I'm going to call these LP1, LP2, LP3, LP4 for example. If you're using lots of landers and you kind of don't want it to be easy for people to find these, one thing I tend to do is things like LP4A7, oh, that wasn't what I meant to do. So LP1, say B3, C6, AA, 4JK8. Like you can basically make the code, put some sort of random characters on the end, so you can still kind of figure it all out, you know what everything is, but for a random affiliate or someone who's trying to look at your stuff, it's not as easy for them as just going LP1, LP2, LP3.html. They can't find them because they can't guess these random parameters. And your security settings on your server will generally disallow people to just browse your web folder or directory like a folder and see what pages you have in there. That's obviously a security concern and is typically disabled. So what I'm going to do is edit these. I'm going to open them in Sublime Text, my favorite editor in this case. Looking at it at the moment, I kind of, this font, this text is too wide. I can either resize the actual window. I think I can go to View, Word Wrap Column. You definitely want Word Wrap on, otherwise things just span off the edge. Word Wrap Column 120. There we go, so that's kind of convenient to have it more like that. But in any case, I'm going to move this to the side. And leave them there. Okay, so there's a bunch of stuff in here that we don't need. We don't need any of this. We don't really need this in most cases. We probably don't need jQuery, and even if we did, we'd probably use it off a CDN instead, rather than Muse CDN's one here. We'll probably just use something like Google or CDN.js. Reason being that a huge percentage of the population has those files cached anyway, so they are downloaded very fast and have very little performance impact. We don't really need this, we don't really need this, and so on and so on. Or in this case, actually, we do need the edge fonts here. So what I would do for figuring out what you can and can't remove is just test it. So let's open LP1 and move this over here. You can use things like live reload and so on to make page edits and have things refresh live. What I'm just going to do is edit and refresh. You can also use things like reload every or various reloading plugins which kind of refresh the page continuously, but not going to bother with that. So I don't think we need this. Actually, I'm going to change my theme here because I don't like the fact that I can't see script tags so easily. I will just find one. Nope, 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 nope. No, definitely not. All I want is script tags to be highlighted nicely. It's so much to ask. I guess that's maybe okay. I'm going to skip through this until I find one. Okay, so I found one called Kabotter, I think. I don't like the way it looks, but it highlights the script tags nicely, and I'll probably have to make my own one because I'm a perfectionist and with color and things like that. In any case, what I'm going to do is delete all of that, and I'm going to delete that, I'm going to delete that. Make sure to just do it from script to script, so from here down to here, for example, and I'm just going to save, and then I'm going to refresh this and see what happens. Okay, so all I saw there was a font change, right? So if I go back and I save, hit F5, watch this font here, you can see that change, and that was because of the edge fonts, right? So if I delete all of this JS include stuff, delete everything but the edge fonts, so I want that edge font there. I don't need this thing here, but I do want this one here, which is loading Open Sans, and I save, hit F5, no change. If I expand this out and I go into responsive mode, see what happens here as I change. Okay, you can see that disappears. That's obviously a problem, right? So there's clearly an issue here. Can we diagnose it in the actual web console, for example, by refreshing and then moving around? Nope. So it seems like there's some sort of interesting behavior going on which is not working because we deleted some JavaScript. So I'm going to go backward. I'm going to save with that in there and refresh. That did not fix it. So I'm going to bring back the next one. It's not that. Bring back all of this and save. And there we go. So there's something in the bottom right that is doing this. So I'm going to get rid of the stuff that I'm quite sure I don't need. I'm going to get rid of this and save, refresh. JavaScript function error calling selector function type error muse.assets. So something that I've loaded up here was kind of a prerequisite for something down here. What I'm going to do is just kind of remove this jQuery for the moment and see if it was that. In terms of what's loading next, that needs this, and it looks like it was. This is already broken, so I'm going to go backward, hit F5. So obviously having this here and having whatever it was I removed up here, it's causing problems. Okay, so this is one of the reasons I don't like Muse's export in the sense that it puts out things that are kind of annoying to remove. I'm going to remove all of this script here, do the bottom stuff first. Usually stuff loading in the head is a bit more important, so we should probably really start with the body. There we go. That broke it. There we go. So what is doing that? That's a very good question. Is it the need for the jQuery here? It is. So we need this jQuery for something which is affecting the way that this page is actually loading. What if we get rid of all of these? Obviously it's got some problems. There we go. So I'd say it's probably one of these scripts here. It's probably this jQuery Muse responsive, right? And if we were to even open that and see what's in there, so I'll open all of these. It's all sort of minified. Here it's so here you can see there's some various CSS selectors and so on. So it's probably the JavaScript here is controlling. Is this wrapping? Hold on one sec. Word wrap. There we go. So this is obviously kind of critical to the responsiveness. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go from the very bottom up. Go to delete that. Hit F5. There we go. That's gone. Save again. Try again. There we go. So we clearly kind of need this. I'm going to get rid of this polyfill and see what that does. So it doesn't really like that. I'm going to get rid of these Muse utility things. You can see here it's saying that some of the files are missing, right? Which means that they must be being requested somewhere in our actual page, so it knows that they are missing. And you can see that's here, right? It's these. It's clearly saying what the Muse assets are, so I'm going to delete that guy. I don't think we need that, so I'm going to delete that and save, and then hit F5. I don't have that warning anymore, but that's still kind of vanishing. So I probably needed those JavaScripts down here. There we go. So a process of kind of elimination for figuring things out, and at the end of this you can just take all of the stuff I've learned and not have to go through all of this. What is this saying? Error calling selection, Muse assets is undefined. So I'm calling Muse assets somewhere, which is probably in here. Okay, so it kind of breaks it all, right? Which puts us in a position where we're kind of like, Muse, please, because we have all of this JavaScript and it's very, very annoying to have to load all of that for simple responsiveness, which is purely CSS based. So this just kind of emphasizes to me the fact that at a high level, you can't get rid of good developers to make your sites. Things like Muse make stuff easy, but to make things easy, they tend to have to do things in a way which are not really the best for performance. If you did have all of this all these JavaScript files loading, you would definitely want to be using a CDN so that they cache. They're very, very small, and that way when they're being served to users somewhere across the other side of the world, they at least load very, very quickly. So I'm going to get rid of, undo all of my changes and leave as is. If you were using a page that was not responsive, where you didn't even care, you could actually get rid of all of this and it probably wouldn't matter, right? Now you get into this issue where you want to remove all of this JavaScript, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 kind of sections, or 1, 2, 3 at least that you want to remove, and you kind of want to automate that, or at least I would want to automate that. This is a situation where Sublime Text is awesome because you can use things like the plugins, or extensions, you can use snippets, and you can use regular expressions to speed up things. So when I say extensions, I mean the things we installed in previous videos, like the tools Minify and Prettify. So here, for example, I can hit Prettify code, and it cleans it up a little bit. It sort of expands the JavaScript out and so on. Likewise, I can do tools Minify and just do modify existing to just change the current file. That minifies everything. If I was to turn word wrap off, wait, did I turn it on or off? Turn it off, it kind of looks like that, and so on. It's clearly not really minified the JavaScript very well. So if I go backward 2 and now do a minify here, oops, there we go. Wait, what is this doing? Minify existing. I broke it. Anyway, what I would do is get rid of all of these scripts using regular expressions. Now, to use regular expressions, what we want to do is a find and replace in all of these open files. So if I go to find, I can do find in files, and here if I write, for example, body, and I click find, it's going to show me the results here in all of these files in LP1, LP2, LP3, and so on, right? If I was to do find in files again, and I want to replace, I could replace body with banana everywhere, and then just hit replace. It's going to say, do you want to do this in 28 occurrences on 4 files? Yes. And now you can hopefully see as you move between these that instead of having body, I have banana here in all the locations where body was before. So I just did that across all files. Obviously going to undo, go into each of these files and spam Control Z to undo that. Now this is the point where we can use regular expressions across all of these files. Here, there's a few filters. There's what? Use buffer, show context, whole word, regular expression, and case sensitive. You don't want case sensitive on, but you do want to be able to use regular expressions. I'll let you Google regular expressions if you want to know more about what they are. What I have at the moment is I can provide you with various regular expression examples to do the things that you want to do. So I have one, for example, called find all script tags, which looks like this. Let's say I copy that, and in here I paste that, right? This is going to actually find all sections like this. So if I click find, you can see here how the regular expression is matching these actual matching these actual text areas, right? So essentially this regular expression is saying find me all blocks of text where they start with script and end with script and have any amount of stuff between them. What I want to do is find all of these and replace them with nothing. Replace, replace, and there we go. And now if we look across all of the files with Control Tab, you can see all of the script codes are gone, right? Which is perfect. We basically cleaned shop very, very quickly. I have another few ones, for example, like find title tags. For that you can use this. I think I need, where is the highlighting? Usually it would actually highlight the results here, but I think I'm on the find in files thing, so it's not doing that. Maybe if I just go to find, there, I can see it highlighting things, right? And I can see how this regular expression is kind of working. So if I want to do this across files, note that I have home and home copy and so on as the actual titles here. What I probably want to do is replace this for all variations, right? So I want to take that and I want to replace it with title dot slash, and I probably want to do something like this. Bam, and then replace. I think that's correct. Here you can see, so the regular expression, this dot dot star, is actually matching kind of that area between the title words. So I actually do want to put these actual element brackets in here. And now you can see that I've changed the title on all of those pages. Great. And one last one that I like is the ability to get rid of empty lines, although your Minify and Prettify and so on plugins can kind of do that for you. But you can do this across all of the actual files at once. I'll close that, replace, bam. There you go. So that kind of cleans things up in a few find and replace actual commands. If I was to use the Prettify or Minify, go to Tools, Prettify for example, you can see that actually expands things out. I could then go off and use something like Dirty Markup or HTML Compressor to do the equivalent of those actions, or I could try the Minify, and you'll probably have to play with this to figure out the best way to use it, the settings and so on. If I do that, what is that going to do? Doesn't seem to want to work for me anymore, which is a bit annoying. If I make a new one, there we go. It works if I try and create new. That's it minified. But again, that's not very nice to edit, right? So what you can probably do is do this whole new line thing across all files. You can then save them all with File, Save All. Now they're all actually replaced, so they've all actually changed here. Then what you could do if you wanted to make minified versions, I suppose, is use the shortcut here, which is Control-Shift-M. So you could do Control-Shift-M, oops, get rid of that, Control-Shift-M. Why is that not working? Tools, create new. What about this one? Okay, didn't seem to like me there. Oh, I've already made one, so that's probably why. I'll delete those min ones. And then I'll just hit Control-Shift-M. Oops. Control-Shift-M. Shortcut, please. Doesn't seem to like me. It's like it has some sort of recollection of the history there. I'm going to close Sublime Text and open it again. Move it over here. What I'm going to do is now hit Control-Shift-M, Control-Tab, Tab, Control-Shift-M, Control-Shift-M, and Control-Shift-M. And then that's all of them. So it's now made these minified files. If you want to, for example, use minified only ones on your website and you want to make variations of them, so that would kind of make sense. You have the one that you're editing and you have the minified output. If you're using something like Cloudflare, you can kind of get this HTML minified on the fly by the CDN, though that's not that common and it can have disadvantages and so on. In any case, I'm going to close all of these. And there was one other thing I wanted to show you, and that was snippets. Snippets are very useful for reused code. So let's say I open this. Down here, for example, perhaps I often put my Facebook pixel, right, on my page or on all of my actual sites, which is kind of useful to do that. And I want to put that on all pages by default. There's a few ways you can do this. In Nginx, you can use server-side includes, which kind of do this, or you can kind of design systems to manually inject it. You can also do it with Sublime Text. So in Nginx, you can look up SSI or server-side includes. You can kind of put codes like, just give you an example, like Facebook pixel code or something like that, and then Nginx would automatically replace that with some sort of code when it delivers the file. I wouldn't recommend doing that at the moment because honestly it's kind of easier to keep everything on your computer side rather than having so much server side. What you can use is something called snippets. So if you go to Tools and then Snippets, it's got some examples here. What I want to do is create a new snippet. Maybe I can write that here. Create new, nope, Tools, how do I make a new snippet? Macros, no, open these snippets. Example, wait, what'd that do? No, I want to make a new snippet. How do I do that? It's a very good question. Okay, so I found it. It was kind of obvious. Tools, Developer, New Snippet. So when I open that, it's going to open this example page here with kind of the example way of doing this. This here, this line, this is the actual content of your snippet, right? So if I wanted to insert some sort of JavaScript code, I'm only going to modify this line here. Don't modify line 4 and 2, or at least those content. Let's get a random actual code. Okay, that's annoying to look at. Let's look at the source of one of these pages. Nope, not that one. I just looked at it. Let's look at the source of this page. Let's say we want to insert. Let's say we want to insert this page HTML code here in a lot of pages for whatever reason, right? And then all we have to do is copy it, and we're going to put it in here. I'm going to clean it up a little bit. Perfect. Now what I can do is save that. It's going into the users folder automatically. Not sure where the best place to actually put this is. Where are snippets? I'll go back to Sublime Text, packages, local, installed. I should probably just save it where it actually wanted me to save it. So I'm going to call it snippet random thing. There we go. Now if I go in here, say I want to put this here, I can go bring up the command palette, Control-Shift-P, write snippet, and you can see here the random thing is right there. If I click that, bam, it puts all of that in. So that's really, really cool. But what's even cooler is the fact that you can put triggers. So here's a tab trigger and here's a scope. You can ignore that. I want to use a tab trigger. So I'm going to remove these comment delimiters there, and I'm going to call this tab trigger hello. That's fine. I'm going to save that. Now down here, if I write hello and then I tap tab, it replaces all of that. Hello S, nothing. Hell, nothing. L0, nothing. Hello, tab. So that tab trigger is really, really cool. There's a number of ways to actually use that. For example, you could have FF, for example, meaning funnel flux. Maybe that's your funnel flux install, and all the call to action URLs have a base format with a number after them, or something like that, or using a tracking system that has just one single URL it uses. What you could do is replace this with http://myurl.com/ff/something/blah, and save. And now say you have a call to action, say it's this here, which will turn into an actual link. If I wanted to put that URL in here, I can actually write ff tab to put all of that in, and then I edit it. So it makes it very easy to use URLs that are kind of universal and have them connected to a very, very simple trigger that you can convert. On that note, we have this call to action here, right? And I kind of said I was going to do something with that later, and I just made it text for the moment for various reasons. I'm going to save this and refresh. I've obviously inserted all of this junk, haven't I? I'll get rid of that actually for now. You can find this call to action again. So an A element is an actual link. I'm going to just give this a hash for nothing and refresh, and you can see there, and you can see now that it's a link, it's using this default styling, which is kind of ugly, right? This element here, I want to style in a specific way using CSS. I'm going to add a class to it, and I'm going to call this CTA or whatever, okay? I'm going to save. What I'm going to do is open that actual CSS now. To do that, what I need to do is go into CSS folder and open like one of these. So you can see here that these are all linked to the original file names, right? So if I open LP2, you can see here it's referring to home copy 2, which is a little bit annoying. But in this case, the call to action that we're using is kind of universal across all of those landers. So we can actually put everything in this site global file that is present in all of the pages, so that we don't have to kind of do the work multiple times. So for this actual call to action button here, what I essentially want to do is style it myself. There's a few ways to do this. Let's open the site global CSS here. So what I want to do is basically add a class. I could use an ID, but I prefer to use a class in order to style this. So if I go to LP1 and I find this call to action, I've given it the class CTA. So I'm just going to go to the bottom of this file. Actually, I'll do it right near the top. You can kind of do it wherever you want. I'll do it at the bottom just to make it easy. So I'm going to put .cta, and there we go. That is the kind of basic format for CSS. If it was an ID, you'd use that, but it's a class. Now, I actually have some template files, and you should kind of build your own repository and codex of snippets and files for these various things. I, for example, have this here, basic code for an orange call to action button, right? and I've got this kind of A-link stuff here. This I can put in immediately, like so, and watch that actually remove this annoying underline. There we go. Obviously the color is now not ideal for this current situation. And then here I have some basic page code, which I can put in the head. This is for IE compatibility. We don't even need that at all. Like I said in a previous video, I mean, no one is even really using IE9, so it's not worth it. I actually only need this code here. So I'm going to take this. You might note that there's two. One of these is the call to action class. The other is it on hover. Now there's two ways that I would add this to the button. First would just be copying this and pasting it in here, for example, and saving. Now if I refresh, I can see now my call to action button and the hover, right? Now if I wanted to change this, what I could do is come in here and say change the padding to something like that. I would need to change that on the hover as well, which is a little bit annoying. Actually on this hover here, you don't need to redeclare this padding at all. You don't need to do that on hover states, but I kind of do need that background. If I'm changing something, then I need to redeclare it. If I'm not changing it, I don't need to redeclare it at all. So here, for example, these shadows, I don't believe any of these shadows have really changed. It's just the background here. So I can actually probably get rid of all of that. I want to turn word wrap on because this is kind of annoying. And as you can see, this is kind of long. This is something where I might actually want to select all of this and try like a prettify or something. That's a lot nicer to work with. It clearly worked on the selection as well. Okay, so in this case, for the hover, I want to change the background colors, but I don't need to change the shadow. I don't need to change the border radius. That one I will keep. There we go. Now you need to make sure there's a semicolon ending them. Now I'm going to save and then refresh. And now you can see the padding has changed. Again, I don't need to redeclare it in here. And we've got this kind of hover state. Which one is actually setting it is not specifically clear. I've got a background, kind of like a fallback, a background in base 64 code, and then I have Moz linear gradient for Firefox, WebKit for WebKit browsers, and so on and so on, Opera in that. These are all, it's just kind of like comprehensive coverage for compatibility reasons. If I inspect this element, and I'll just pop this out over here. If I inspect this, I can see the actual classes here. We can see for CTA it's using the padding, and none of these are being used. It is actually using these box shadows here, and what is it using? It's using this background property here. I believe, no it's not. Which one is it actually using? If I unselect this, then it, see if I unselect this, it falls back to that. If I unselect that, then it falls back to another one, and so on and so on and so on. So it's using whatever it is that it's using. Now, I'll get rid of that. If I wanted to change this, I could edit things in here and save and refresh, and that's kind of annoying. If I have the CSS saved locally, it's much easier to just use my web developer tools. So for that, I'm going to inspect this, and I can see here these classes, right? I can just click on Site Global to open it. Here it is. Now what I can do is I can change it directly in here. So I can put different paddings in here. It'll make it change on the fly. I might want to change the specific font for this actual call to action, so I can just put font size, and you can use autocomplete. So if I write font dash S and it's on, I can just press up and down to actually go through these, and I might want to do 24 pixels. There we go. You can see it obviously breaks it, and so on. If I go back to the inspector, I can see this font size in here. I can tick and untick it to toggle it on and off. If I actually modify it in here, I can just use the up and down keys to change things. I can use Shift to do it in bigger jumps. I can use Alt to do smaller jumps, and so on. So I just want to go say 22 pixel. If I change that here and then I click back on here, you can see here it's changed as well. So if I want to change things here, the easiest way is probably to inspect And you can change these elements just by clicking on them, right? And you have these hover states telling you which one you're looking at. I tend to find it easier to just inspect directly, to flick to it, so I don't have to waste much time thinking. But say I want to change this headline. You can see here, this is just a P element inside this one here. Muse has this thing where it just kind of makes lots of divs and gives them these unique IDs, whereas usually if this was a headline, you'd use something like H1 or H2 actual element tags. In any case, if I click on that, I want to change the color to, say, a yellow, and say I want to change this, and I want to change the font size to 16, and I want to change this, and I want to, what do I want to do? Maybe I want to give it a border. No, that's doing it to something else. You can see here, this is doing it to all of these elements. That's kind of like a global style. I did not want that. I wanted this here. So if I click on this, it brings this style up here. If I click on something inside, it still shows me the inherited styles from parents here. So maybe I can make that smaller, I can make the weight higher, so say 700 to make it bold. I can change the font family if I want. I can do almost anything. For the call to action, let's say I want to, having all these gradient things here can be a little bit annoying. Let's say I want to add a margin. I can just click in here, hitting enter goes through all of these. If I go to the bottom and then hit enter, I can write a new one, and I can say do 10px, 0px. So this is vertical and horizontal, or you can do top, left, right, bottom, or whatever. I can never remember which the order they go on. If I keep raising this, it's doing nothing. If I raise this, it's doing the left and right. So for this specific element, the margins are set in a way that I won't even try and begin to explain. The paddings are kind of a bit more understandable. Here, for example, that's clearly the padding around the text. What do I want to do? Go here. For this, for example, actually no, let's change this yellow block. And say this yellow block here, I want to change it to be just completely white. And I want to change the size somehow. And increases margin or decrease it. You can make it negative. And then I want to change its width. There we go. So I've made all of these changes, right? Some of them are in some files, some of them are in others. So some are in site global, some are in index.css. If I was to now just refresh this page, all of that would be lost. But if I click on site global, go down and see these changes I've made, if I hit Control S within here, first note this little star here, which is kind of the universal symbol for changes that have been unsaved. If I click save, now that's done. If I go to index, I guess I haven't really changed much in there, although I thought I changed this. Maybe I have. I'll hit Control S anyway. Now if I refresh, you can see many of those changes actually were propagated. I think if I go down here, I can't even remember what I changed anymore. If I say, so some of those were clearly in index and got lost. If I change this to 28, and I change the padding to 120, and I save, and then I refresh, you can see they're saved. For this one, which is in where its properties are set in the specific CSS file for this document, not the global. If I change these, and oh, there we've got some cool page styling going on. Change the width. That's in index.css for a certain responsiveness. If I open that, and I go to the specific one that I was looking for, which is this one, you can see here that these haven't actually, have they changed? No, they haven't actually changed, which is kind of interesting. So if I change this and go here, now it's kind of changed. So for whatever reason, it looks like I think I had to click this to actually open it for editing before those changes are actually propagating through. I can even do something crazy like delete all of this, which might break the page, delete lots of this, which has done a lot of damaging stuff. No, not saving there, save in here, refresh, it's all done. So this is my preferred way for actually doing the live edits to things. I think it's a lot easier for CSS. For HTML editing, you don't really want to do stuff like inspecting in here, editing as HTML, changing words in here as so, and then you can't just hit Control S and have that save, right? If I'm doing that now, nothing's happening. If I refresh, it's going to revert. There we go. You could save in here, but of course it's saving like this, and you don't really want to do that. So for HTML, use a basic text editor. For CSS, I highly recommend you use the web developer tools so you can change it while watching it respond. This makes your life a lot easier because you don't have to keep saving, refreshing, and so on. Right, so that's pretty much all I wanted to say about that. I don't think there's too much else I want to show you in terms of how to actually hack into this page and get things ready. It's all relatively straightforward. In terms of minification and so on, you can either use an actual tool like this to actually do that, or you could use HTML compressor to do something actually similar. I'll do that right now. Paste in here, show options. I like never strip quotes. I kind of find it annoying to strip them. Single line you don't really need. It's kind of annoying to read. And so on. Compress. There we go. And you can see it's saved maybe like 10, 20% or something like that. If I paste that in here, it's not as minified as using this, which isn't working obviously, but it is quite nice and readable. And one thing I should mention that I completely forgot is images. So these images here, now it's time for Kraken to shine. So we'll open up Kraken. And always do this. Seriously, Kraken is awesome. Just do it. So here we have, notice here that it made a new image for responsiveness reasons, which is kind of interesting. I don't like that. I don't really like using different images for different page sizes. I kind of find it annoying, but it is one way to reduce the actual weight of your page, because on a mobile device you probably don't need a background that's like 2,000 pixels wide by 1,000, right? So all of these together, 920 kilobytes, obviously not compressed very well at all. That one's 11 kilobytes and looks terrible. I'm going to click and drag these in here and see what happens. 147 down to 138, 206 down to 93, 11 to 11, 555 to 300. So there's obviously quite a lot of savings there, almost 40% overall, and that is on lossy, so that's kind of the one you want. I'm going to just open the zip archive. I'm going to open this directly, and I'm just going to drag and drop these and replace. And there we go. You'll generally have very few problems just doing lossy compression straight away. But do be aware if you're really kind of concerned about the visuals, like if it's an important site. For JPEGs, you should always kind of do a double check, because sometimes the lossy compression can affect the actual coloration and the quality. For PNGs, it's absolutely amazing. So from Photoshop, if you export something with transparency, PNG 24, throw it into Kraken and it will just make it awesome. Okay, that's pretty much everything I wanted to go over in terms of getting this page ready and hacking through things. The next step is uploading your Lander and doing some basic page performance testing to assess if there are any annoying issues that you need to fix. And that's pretty much it. That's all I could really think of. I'll see you in the next video.